Hey, welcome to the continuing Winemaker series here at Wine of the Month Club, and we are honored and pleased to have Alex Giesen from New Zealand, from Giesen Winery, and it's been a really fun trip through the vineyard, so to speak, here in New Zealand, not the least of which was a trip through the Lord of the Rings.
The Hobbits.
Yeah, the Hobbits, the Lord of the Rings, and I got to go on this tour. When did you go on that tour?
Well, we did that about twice now in the summer holidays this year and last year, which summer for us is January.
Right, yes.
And New Zealand, of course, has so many locations. You sometimes don't really need to do any commercial tour. You just need to go and buy the right book or the right app.
Sure, it's all documented, right?
It will tell you where to stop, and the tour guides, they get out fancy laptops and play you the scenes, and then you can, really.
Well, that's kind of cool, though.
And then you get apps, props, and you can dress yourself up in costume like Mr. Frodo or like an orc or a hobbit, and so it's a cool thing to do. And
my kids are gonna be very jealous.
If you run away with your imagination, sometimes the wife tells you off to stop Tolkien, Frodo, Lord of the Ring language in the bus or car. You know?
Yeah, right. That's enough of that, right?
Yeah,
grow up, will you?
Grow up. That's it. But in between these sort of things, you also have the opportunity then to travel and experience New Zealand's other fine wares, which would be wine and food, and the food and wine matches, and the coastal environment, which is sort of the same lovely Pacific as we have here in California. It would be a great place to see you and welcome you.
We're going to come with our Frodo and org costumes as well.
Of course.
I don't think they have them at Party City here, but we'll find something. So we were talking off camera a little bit about the history of the winery, and your accent.
My accent, yes.
Is German.
Yes, I immigrated in 1980. My brother was 21 and Theo was 22, and we had the opportunity to work in our trade, which is in the stonemason side in New Zealand. And interesting enough, growing up in a monoculture of grape growing in the Rheinpfalz, which is just 50 km south of Frankfurt, close to the border to the Alsace, we were so amazed that the place where we were grew olives and citrus, but there were no grapes. And being sort of more inclined to consume wine over beer, which is not very Germanic, we decided, well, hey, there has to be something done about it. And land availability in Europe, that's all divvied up for generations, and you can't sort of join them. But in New Zealand, we had the opportunity to purchase initially south of Christchurch, which is on the east coast of the South Island. We purchased 75 acres of land, and that would be totally out of our price range in Europe. Mm-hmm. And it was bare grassland, and we started to plough it up. We made our own hardwood cuttings in winter from other vineyards.
Really? Wow.
And planted it out in Riesling for start.
Yes, of course.
And then they said, that gives you straight away the branding, the Giesen boys, they're Riesling Germans. And we had the classic Muller Thurgau, which at the time was New Zealand's favorite grape variety, made the lovely, sweet, aromatic wines. Yep. And a few years into the business, I had a visit by somebody who was involved with making these large generic brands like Blue Nun and Black Tower. And he said, you with your Muller Thurgau New Zealand, you really destroyed our export market, you know. And New Zealand became very self-sufficient in producing these wines. And then we had some very classic American disease, the phylloxera.
Yeah,
and boy, did we like it, because it got rid of rid of these bulk wine varieties. Yeah. And at that stage in the mid-'80s, the big noble master of wines in London had discovered the quintessence of what really now makes New Zealand famous internationally, the Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah. And that's where the story starts. That's where Mr. Frodo's leading the world, you know. That's where we went out, and the world said, gee, that's a great value proposition. That wine really, that is fantastic. It jumps out of the glass. It's easy identifiable, and it goes very well with a broad style of food
That
dishes.
sounds like a brand that you're going to produce, the Frodo Sauvignon Blanc. Is that?
I think some lawyers in New York from New Line Cinema will be very quickly on my case, mate. They don't like that.
Well, there's another varietal, and we should have brought the Riesling in since of your history, but Pinot Gris seems to be doing very well from Marlborough, and we love them here, the Wine of the Month.
Yes.
We featured many of them, and this one I thought was particularly fruit forward. It had a wonderful dimension. I liked it better than its Italian counterparts. And you call it Pinot Gris, which is the French name of the grape.
That's right, yes.
Tell us about this wine and where it's from. And
Well, we grow, as the label with these green vineyard side states, we grow right throughout the Wairau Valley. which spans sort of 40 miles east-west and 30 miles north-south. And out of that, you have various soil types and structures. The grapes aren't really maturing all at the same time in all the vineyards, so you have the opportunity to taste at various times and pick on flavor and according to style they want you make. And the ripeness in Pinot Gris gets that sort of lovely, soft, almondy, peachy aroma into Pinot Gris out of New Zealand, and then it has that sort of real fruit weight with a nice, soft, elegant finish, not too tart in the acid structure, and a very pleasant aromatic wine.
You nailed it with those descriptions, because I get all those things in there, and I love the sort of, there's sort of a peach in there, but it's got great acidity to grip that fruit, so you're not overdone with the fruit.
That slight sort of that stone fruit when you bite on an almond kernel, and it's just sort of like just that slightly touch of that which makes it, and it's after you swallow it, you get that sort of actually I want more, you know.
Yeah,
it's sort
it's
of
really
that,
good.
It's nice salivating.
This is all estate fruit.
That's estate fruit from Giesen Estate and some growing partners as well.
Oh, some growing partners, yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move into the heart of the Marlborough wine country, as you just described for
That's
us.
right,
We're
yes.
going to Sauvignon Blanc, and we're going to start with these are, I think, extremely value-oriented for the quality. The quality is extremely high, and the price is around $14.99 on the shelf if you
That
see
would
it
be
on the
right,
shelf.
yes.
Extraordinary value, and in this particular one, which is, I guess, would be your entry-level one, one of the things we find a lot of times here with Sauvignon Blancs from New Zealand and Marlborough in particular is that it's like grapefruit. It's like squirt, the flavored drink. It tastes like grapefruit soda. And this does not. This has grapefruit, but good acidity, refreshing fruit. I really, really enjoyed tasting this. Tell us about this.
Well, again, the story lies within the land. And when you have, like us now, farmed over 30 years in New Zealand, you know where you have your pockets and how the grapes ripen. And ripeness is everything for everybody of your folks online here. It's really something for those who have garden, who have experience with granddad's apple trees, things like that. The riper the fruit, that's better. And it's not all vineyards are equal, so you have to go really on a daily routine and taste the fruit. You go through the vineyard, and as much as you, after 8:30 in the morning, you have to go and try yet again another bunch of grapes. And the winemakers and us, we say, oh God. But the essence is to pick when it's really ripe. And there are some links on YouTube about ripeness of grapes and why Giesen's pick. I know other wine companies, they say, we start picking on the 28th of March, and they go into vineyards and pick grapes. And
That was like, you pick a date and we just go.
you pick
And
a
that's
date
not
and
good
go, and we say, no. And as we have, that's the advantage in a family business. We can make the decisions that we want to do. We go out when we want. We have our own harvesting crews and our own harvesting equipment. So we're not forced to go out on the 28th of March. We can say, no, it takes
Let's
a bit
wait,
longer.
yeah.
Well, let's wait. And
Which-
patience is the essence in winemaking. Is time being sometimes waiting for something that you get that just at its pinnacle, get it at its right moment. And that's when we have every batch from every vineyard is kept separate. And at the end, the winemaking team and the proprietor, we sit together and taste every batch from every vineyard, and then we assemble the estate. And that's why we have such a depth and structure in our wines. Versus people who say, oh yeah, we pick the whole Sauvignon Blanc in the valley over the next 10 days, and we put it all in one big wet, and then we
And
call
see
it
what
Marlborough
happens.
Sauvignon Blanc, and see what happens.
We'll see what happens to
yeah.
it. Well, you made a great segue to this next wine, because the family gets together, it has to make the decisions, and our next wine is the Brothers Sauvignon Blanc, which is still unoaked, right?
It's unoaked.
But it has a little more
And
depth and character than the
Over
previous
the years,
wine.
we identified 5 key vineyards, and one is actually a key supplier, Keith Adams, who is really a valuable member of the Giesen wine supply team. And if you really put a lot of effort in the vineyard, I said it at numerous occasions, we all love our barbecues, be it this side of the Pacific or down our end. Your barbecue is only as good as your meat that you buy from the butcher. And that's the same for winemaking. Your wine is as better the grapes, as more you tender and care and look after your grapes, as better as if you express it right and don't have any faults in winemaking, That's where as we say, the cookie crumbles in the vineyard. You know, you make it and break it in the vineyard.
It's the old, you can make bad wine from good grapes, but you can't make good wine from bad grapes, right?
You got it in a nutshell.
As much as I was so disappointed once, I went to visit a winery, and he tasted me on a Zinfandel, and I thought, wow, it's pretty good, but the color was a little off for the age. And he goes, I can fix that. So he goes in the refrigerator and pulls out this vial of, I don't know what it was, and drops it in the bottle, and it changed colors. Wow. Now we had a wonderful rosy Zinfandel.
Is he a magician?
It was really amazing. So this wine, more depth, more character,
more expression. It's free-run juice, which means it's just what drips off for the first time when you start just gently squeezing grapes, so you don't have any phenolics that come out and give that wine a sort of slight bitterness to it.
Right.
So really trying to have the premium cut, so to speak, and then just gently guide it through a cold fermentation. Cold fermentation is for us around about 5-6 degrees, and just with the right yeasts. But you're just starting to pour. My grandfather's favorite.
I want to save a minute or two
should he be
for
alive,
this.
you know?
This is a great story. Is this him now on the label?
That's him on the label.
Good looking
Yes.
guy. What happened?
He was a cool. They would say in America, cool dude, wouldn't they?
He's a cool. Yeah, that's
Cool
right.
dude.
Yeah, he's a very cool German dude.
Yeah, he was.
So he came to America, though, right?
He did. He's one of 12, and they bought sort of the girls were all sort of involved with husbands that were in the silk and dyeing business of fabric and clothing, and they immigrated, and then they lured August across to Pennsylvania, and he worked in a gentleman's club there. He worked in New York in clubs, and he enjoyed his wine. He worked across on the old passenger ships across the Atlantic. So Granddad and Grandma already had decided to also follow the family and live in America. And my father was born about 8 or 9 months old, and my grandmother's father started sort of to plead to his only daughter and said, should that young boy become an American? And that was for probably a 19-year-old mother with a baby.
Wow.
A bit too much to handle the family pressure. And she cabled August in America, if you love me and the boy, come back. And I could have been born on your side, you know.
I've been under a lot of pressure in my life, but not that kind of pressure.
And so over the years, from what my father tells me in the family, he was a man who loved his wine. And my father, who retired to New Zealand and still alive, he's 92, still drinks the odd glass of, he likes it now, the softer styles like the Pinot Gris, but he said, if my father would be alive, hence August, he would be so proud of you guys. So he said, look, we should put something in the place where we have the tradition of somebody who was always a wine lover, to say the least, and a food enthusiast. So we thought it's there, and let's put him into its right place on the left side of the label.
Congratulations on that. That's great.
Thank you.
By the way, if you were born here, we would have welcomed you with open arms. We'd love to have you. And before we close, I saw your Rotary pin. And I'm a Rotarian as well here. My father was a Rotarian. And my grandfather was president of the Rotary Club in Hollywood in 1955.
Wow.
And I didn't get a chance to tell you that story off camera, but he was an immigrant as well with a Turkish accent. And here he is in the heyday of Hollywood as, you know, a pretty important organization in the world. And so tell me about your club. How many people? What do you guys specialize in?
We are club 90 strong still these days.
Club, yeah.
And over the years, sort of highlight projects helping out building one of the first rest homes that was built under charitable trust status.
Really? Well, that's in
And
New Zealand.
that was really a great project where some Rotarian donated the land and then they did the fundraising. Over the years, been blessed with some bequests, so we have a couple of foundations from which we can support youth and underprivileged children.
Excellent.
We were, unfortunately, in New Zealand struck by, particularly Christchurch, by a huge earthquake. And the world community of Rotarians was incredibly generous. And in the last 3 years, we sort of have administered funding in excess of $200,000, which we purposely look in the rebuild after the earthquake in Christchurch, and trying to utilize funds wisely and always ask ourselves, why did our Rotarian fellows internationally dip into their back pocket and give us that money? And we have to be very sure that we meet their wishes when we have requests for support of rebuilding playgrounds, helping out with school libraries
Right.
that got
That's
destroyed.
right.
So it has to be orientated around youth and children in underprivileged families. There was one thing where they needed about 50 trailer loads of firewood for people. So
Really? Wow.
it was a reasonable price tag behind it, only $1,000. But you have to ask yourself, is it in the interest of the movement? And I've been involved with Rotary now for 8 years, and before in a youth movement called Roundtable. So I'm in over 30 years, probably now service to the community, and
That's great.
I enjoy the international contacts, and it's good to meet
It's
a fellow
great.
Rotarian.
Yes. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
I think I told you I have the app when we were traveling in Salzburg, and virtually every hotel I went into had a Rotary meeting, but we just happened to miss it
Right.
until Dijon, and then we went downstairs, and I was so happy because they served wine. Of course,
All
it's
right.
in Burgundy, right? So why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
You have wine at your meetings?
Only if you pay for it.
Okay.
You can bring,
Oh, you
we
can
had
bring it
to
or
be
you
a
can't, okay.
lunch dinner meeting, so at lunch dinner you can have a glass of wine if you want.
I'm gonna bring up to the board that we start serving. It'd be good for my business anyway, right? If I bring wine to the
It
meeting.
helps. It's
so-
for medicinal purposes, and
Of
some
course.
of the older gentlemen would benefit, I think,
Of
health-wise
course.
from it.
You must see our club because our average age is probably like 90. It's a pretty
Yes,
old
yeah,
group.
I'm one of the younger ones as well.
Yeah, okay. It's a pleasure having you here, Alex. Thank
Okay.
you so much for visiting us.
Thank you for your time,
Cheers.
Paul. Cheers.
Safe travels.